What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and welcome to Week 9 of the Premier League. So let's jump right in with the first game on Friday night. West Ham hosting Brighton. Quite a shocking result, as this weekend was full of shocking results. Brighton taking home the 3 points, winning 3-0 at West Ham. Obviously, it's a great result for them. They've been having some mixed performances, some mixed results as well. They've gotten a couple wins here and there. They've gotten a couple draws as well, but just haven't really put together a string of good performances. Well, this is a good performance and a good result to go along with it. But the real story here is West Ham once again looking terrible. They did create a few chances here and there throughout the game, but to be honest, it was Brighton's game. They put away their chances. They created some really deadly chances outside of the three that they put away. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with West Ham, but they are looking a shadow of the team that they were last year. And last year they weren't doing too well either. So, if I had to guess, obviously Ronald Koeman fired today, so Slaven Village is not the next manager on the chopping block. But after Koeman, it seems like Village is very dangerously close to the sacking. So, yeah, there's a good chance, come next weekend, West Ham might have a new manager. I guess it depends on how cutthroat the West Ham board are. But based on their performances so far this season and the results too, I have to imagine that they are very close to getting rid of him as well. So we'll see how that goes, but not a great start to the weekend for West Ham. But then we go to the first game of Saturday morning, and Chelsea beating Watford, kind of an expected result. However, that as I said in my Chelsea review, Watford definitely were the better team for majority of the game. Up until probably the last 20 minutes when Chelsea started turning on the style, Watford did play very well, and Chelsea were looking kind of bedraggled. So it's kind of a question of what's going on at Chelsea. Why are there some issues? Some of the players aren't performing as well. You got your defense leaking goals. So it's kind of a mixed bag for both teams. For Chelsea, they'll look at the last 20 minutes and say, that's quality. That's what we have in us. We just need to get more of that. They'll also look at the strikers and say, all right, well, Morata's not really performing very well, but Batshuayi's doing okay coming off the bench, but we need a striker that's going to do well from the start of the game. And then you go to Watford, and yeah, they'll be pretty happy with their performance for the most part. They'll be upset that they couldn't at least hold on to a point, but you are going up against the champions at Stamford Bridge, and this is coming off of a weekend where you just beat Arsenal. So they got to be pretty happy with themselves right now. Just maybe a little bit disappointed not to at least get a point out of it. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but good result for Chelsea, decent performance from Watford. Both teams will come away from this weekend fairly happy. Next set of games started off with Swansea versus Leicester. Another surprising result in the weekend, mainly because Swansea have been looking pretty good, especially at home. They finally put together a couple good performances. Leicester, obviously getting rid of Craig Shakespeare, kind of a surprise, mainly because their performances have been pretty good. They're just not getting the results that they need. So this is the week after getting rid of your manager. Most of the time, you'll see a bit of a spark in the performances the week after getting rid of the manager. And so we did see that this weekend. I think we saw the players step up a little bit. We saw them play a little bit better. But as far as Swansea are concerned, they'll be disappointed to drop points, especially all 3 points at home, mainly because they have been playing pretty well. It's kind of a surprising result, but obviously Leicester will take a lot away from it and hopefully get some momentum from this. And Swansea will be hoping this isn't a sign of things to come. It's just maybe a bump in the road. Next game, another surprising result. Stoke hosting Bournemouth, and Bournemouth come away with all 3 points. Yet again, another team that have not been looking good coming up against a team who have been looking pretty good, and the team not looking good gets away with 3 points. Stoke have started off the season pretty well. It seemed like they had finally started to get into the rhythm of things. Even though they lost Arnautovic, they've had a couple other players in Choupo-Moting and Shaqiri step up in his place. And so it kind of seemed like, okay, there's no problem at Stoke. But they have had a couple performances here and there that kind of make you wonder, are they as solid as we think? Because you have the 4-0 drumming that Chelsea gave them at home. And then there was another result recently. I can't remember who they lost to, but it was a lower team that you expected them to beat. And so now you've lost to Bournemouth at home. kind of start to wonder, are they as solid as they seemed at the beginning of the year? The first team to make Man U drop points. It was kind of like, oh, well, maybe they're going to be a team to contend with, but maybe not as much. But as far as Bournemouth go, finally get 3 points. Not the first time this season, I don't think, but finally, get a good result away from home at Stoke, which is always a difficult place to play. Yeah, they'll definitely take a lot of positives out of this. I don't think Defoe stepped up. I don't even know if he played in this game, but they'll still be hoping that Defoe will start to step up and get some goals, because why else did you sign him if he's not going to get any goals? But for both teams, for Stoke, for Bournemouth, it's kind of it's an opposite reaction. Stoke have been flying pretty high, now they're starting to drop off. Bournemouth have been flying pretty low, and now they're starting to rise up a little bit. So kind of weird how that works. But moving on to the next game, Newcastle versus Palace. I said last week after the Chelsea game that if Palace could not get a result, or at least put on a good performance this week and get some more goals, obviously going away is always going to be difficult. But if they could get a couple goals, and maybe if they lost 2-1 or if they tied 1-1, something like that, then it would be a sign that maybe things are starting to look up. But if not, then it's just going to be Chelsea had a bad week, you had a good week, there's your win. They lost 1-0. So clearly it's starting to look like, yeah, that Chelsea result was just a blip for them. It was just a crazy weekend where Chelsea had an off week. Cahill and Luis were awful. They give away 2 goals, and then there you go. You get the 3 points out of it. But as far as Newcastle are concerned, it's another solid defensive performance. They get a goal, a narrow win, but it's 3 points. It doesn't matter who it's against, it's 3 points, and they need the 3 points they can get right now. Because, if you really think about it, Newcastle are not going to be one of those top teams. They'll probably be comfortably mid-table if they can keep getting results like this. So they'll take any 3 points they can get. It doesn't matter how they come by the 3 points. But to stay defensively solid, pretty good result for them. But Palace really got to start doing something to change, because it's not getting any better. And not only did they lose 1-0, they probably should have been down a man, because Cabaye should have gotten a red card early on. So, yeah, it's definitely not looking good for Palace at all this season. Next game, a game that kind of surprised me. I think everybody else is probably like, well, of course. Man City versus Burnley. The reason this is surprising to me is because the past couple years, and then the year when Chelsea won the title under Mourinho, Burnley has typically been Man City's stumbling block. It doesn't matter where they play, whether they play at Burnley, whether they play at home. For some reason, Sean Dyche knows how to set up his team to counteract whatever Man City team is out there, whether it's Pep Guardiola, whether it was Pellegrini. It didn't matter who they faced. It felt like they knew how to set up against Man City, and it felt like it was either a draw or a win for Burnley every time. So to see them win comfortably here, on the face of it, looks like, okay, well, Man City finally overcome that little curse of not being able to beat Burnley. However, I do take a little bit of, I take a little bit of away from it, from Man City. Not because they didn't play well. Obviously, they've been playing very well this season. They look like the best team so far. However, one of the things that is going to help them so far this season, and it's something that I've noticed, obviously as a Chelsea fan, I am a little bit biased, so you may not agree, but they have been getting some very lucky or fortunate results because the referees have been giving them some things. It's not something I'm going to say like, oh, yeah, there's a conspiracy to let Man City win. I'm not going to say anything like that. But they have been getting some fortunate calls. You look at the Bournemouth game, they're tied 1-1 against Bournemouth. Probably should be beating them, but not able to finish. It's 1-1 late on. Otamendi gives away the ball. The attacker for Bournemouth, I can't remember who it was, break into goal, and the referee calls some ghost foul. Even though he clearly won the ball, just a foul. And so Man City step up, take the free kick quickly, and manage to go down and score off that free kick and win the game. So you were just about to lose, the referee gives you a non-foul, and now you go down and win. That's pretty fortunate. This game, first of all, you have a moment where Burnley are just chance shot after shot after shot. Ball bounces away from Henderson. He reaches out to grab it. Attacker gets his foot in right before Henderson gets his hand on the ball, nips it away from him, and the ref gives the foul, even though he did not have possession of the ball. Bail him out right there, and then you go down and you get a penalty the keeper slides in. Yes, there's contact on his knee onto Bernardo Silva's foot, but you can tell by his body positioning. It's one of those, it's a slight touch and he goes down way too easily. I mean, the hands went back, the head went back. It was like one of the most obvious things ever. Even if there is contact, if I ever see a striker do that, I know it's a dive. It's minimal contact and you're flopping yourself to the ground. The ref gives the penalty. And then you look a little bit later, Fernandinho tries to clear it, kicks it right into his hand and knocks it down for somebody else to kick it out. No penalty. So all of these little calls that are changing the game for Man City and giving them goals or not letting the other team have a goal, it's little things. And yes, you could say, well, refs makes mistakes, but they're going Man City's way. And it's not every time, it's not every year that that's going to happen. Sometimes you get bad calls against you. You're just unfortunate that way. Sometimes you're getting injuries that go against you. You're just unfortunate that way. So far, Man City have been very fortunate this season. And it's because of that I think, yeah, they're starting to look like the title favorites this season. You're not really getting many injuries. You're getting all these little fortunate calls that are helping games go your way. You're playing really well on top of all that. Yeah, it looks like their year. So you go to the other Manchester club, the final game at this time slot, Huddersfield versus Man U. Yeah, Huddersfield managed to put Man U away. Watching the game, I didn't see a whole lot of it, but I did see the goals for Huddersfield. And yeah, it's showing. Man U are weak defensively this year. And that is something that I think Jose's never had to deal with in his second season. Most of the time you look at Jose's second season, he's got a solid back line built. He's got a solid midfield in front of them built. And that's all he needs. You got a solid defense, you got a solid midfield, you got a striker who can nip a goal every now and then. Boom. Season over, title won for Jose. This year he's dealing with a back line that it's not solid. Think about their back line. Yes, Bailly is a beast back there, but ultimately he makes some mistakes. Jones, not good enough. Smalling has moments. Lindelof showed he's not good enough. That's not a good back line, and he doesn't even have a solid fullback either. So it's really showing, the two goals in this game, both the poor defensive mistakes, first one just pretty much a giveaway in the midfield and they're just running through the defense, and then the second one, Lindelof. But yeah, I mean, it shows that clearly they do not have the back line that Jose Mourinho needs to win the title this year. And that's going to show. It's going to catch them by the end of the year. They're not going to be able to put some games away. Other teams are going to get chances on goal that most of the time they wouldn't have if Mourinho had the back line he wanted, because most of the time he just wants to park the bus. That's how he wins games. He parks the bus and he waits for the striker to get him a goal. He can't do that this year because he doesn't have the solidity back there that he needs. So, very interesting result. Obviously, Huddersfield flying high after this. They've already started off the season very well. To beat Man U is just like, holy crap, we're amazing. So they'll definitely take some momentum off of this. I don't know who they play next week, but if it's a lower team, they'll probably get a result there. I fully expect them to just keep flying high off of this result. So Manchester City looking like the best team this season, looking like they're playing really well. They've got the best players. They're getting fortunate, in not getting injuries and getting some referee calls going their way. I mean, they're looking the best, and then you look at Man U and faltering. Draw last week against Liverpool, lost this week against Huddersfield. Not good enough. So just kind of interesting to compare the two. And then you look at the final game on Saturday. You got Southampton versus West Brom. Kind of surprising to me, just because typically West Brom do very good away from home at kind of playing for a draw and doing very well to hold the other team to that. And honestly, Southampton have not looked very good this season. They've looked pretty weak defensively. They haven't looked good on the attack. And it kind of showed through most of the game. If it weren't for Buffal's amazing run down the field, yeah, they wouldn't have gotten anything out of the game. So you kind of look at both of them. It's not a great performance from either of them. Southampton obviously will be happy to take 3 points away from home. West Brom will be disappointed not to get anything. But I really look at the performances, and neither of these teams look like they're going to do much this season. They'll probably both be bottom half of the table, but not relegation battle. It'll probably just be, like 13th and 14th, not close at all. So, I don't know. I would just hate, if I were a supporter of either of those clubs, I would just hate to be in that situation where it feels like we're not fighting for anything. It feels like we're just comfortably safe and who cares where we get in the table. I would hate that feeling. I'd want us to try to challenge for more, and it doesn't feel like either of these clubs, with their purchases, with the players they have, it doesn't feel like they're pushing for anything more. So I think it'll be a disappointing performance for both teams, but that's just me. On to Sunday, first game on Sunday morning. Well, actually, both of these games were pretty intense setups. You got Everton not doing well this season versus Arsenal not doing well this season. You got Spurs finally bouncing back from a couple poor results at home. Liverpool back and forth all season. Both of these games very good setups, but ultimately the Merseyside teams just didn't have enough. So first we'll look at Everton Arsenal. 5-2 Arsenal, very intense game. I only got to see the first half because I had stuff to do on Sunday. I had a game to play, so I didn't get to see all the game. But based on what I saw in the first half, no, actually, I did see some of the second half. I saw up until the third goal for Arsenal. I saw the red card, then saw the third goal, and I'm like, all right, this game's over, and turned it off and had to go. So I did see the first half, and it was great. I loved watching it because it was so back and forth. Everton weren't really creating a lot of chances, but they were looking dangerous. They were flying at the Arsenal defense. They looked like they were about to create a chance. And then, of course, one of the players that can't play very well gets on the ball and then loses it. And then Arsenal's right back at them, and they're moving the ball really well, and then it falls to somebody who can't shoot like, anybody on Arsenal, and it flies over the goal, and now the chance is gone. And I don't know, it was just so back and forth and back and forth. It looked great, but then they get to the final third, and neither of them could really complete anything. Rooney finally opens up the score with a great goal, and then they come back down to the other end, and can't remember who it was now that got on the end of a header, I think. But, it was very back and forth. It was an exciting game to watch, and then Arsenal get the second goal, and it looks like they're running away with it, but then Everton are still coming back at them. But then Ghana gets sent off for a stupid challenge to make on a yellow card, and now it's pretty much all Arsenal. And that's, I don't know, it's kind of disappointing because I would have loved to see how the game would finish if it were 11-on-11. Because, to be honest, Everton haven't looked good at all this season, but they were playing with a lot of energy. Arsenal can play very well whenever they're playing with energy, but at times you don't see that energy. You see a frustration, you see a lack of energy, you see players being lazy. And so it would have been very interesting to see what would happen if Everton at 11 facing Arsenal 11, one goal behind, trying to get that last goal. How's it all going to finish? That would have been so much fun to watch. But to see Ghana get sent off and then Arsenal get a third, it's just like, well, the game's over now. Because Everton were already chasing. Now they're chasing a man down. It wasn't going to go anywhere after that. So obviously this game cost Koeman his job. A little bit disappointed for him because I do think he did very well with them last season. I think it's just, it is kind of unfortunate for him because they didn't manage to replace Lukaku with anybody spectacular. Rooney's very good, but he's not going to get a goal by himself. He needs help around him. He creates very well for other people. So, yeah, it's very disappointing for him. I don't know if the next coach coming in is going to do anything. I know David Moyes has been floating around, or his name has been floating around as a possibility. It would be very interesting to see what would happen if he came back because typically he was the one that did very well at keeping them in and around the Europa League race. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But for Arsenal, obviously, they'll take a lot away from this because they needed to get a result because it's not been looking good for them. But I don't think this is going to change a whole lot. If next week, if they lose, it's just they're back in the same boat again because beating Everton isn't that big a deal right now. But anyway, on to the last game for the weekend, Spurs versus Liverpool, 4-1 Spurs. Another win at Wembley for them will be very, very hopeful to their fans because it seemed like they were never going to get a win there. But now this is 2 wins in a row at home. They'll be hoping to continue to take points at home. But let's talk about Liverpool because once again, their defense is looking ragged. Just not good at all. And like I said before, if you do not have a solid defense, if you don't have a defense that can stop conceding goals, you're not going to be anywhere near the title, and they just keep dropping points. They do not look good defensively. On the attack, they look very, very quick and very fast, but don't seem to have a finisher. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Liverpool this year. Honestly, out of the two teams that are kind of in and around the top 4 race most of the years, Tottenham and Liverpool, neither of them are ever really considered title contenders. Most of the time, it's the Manchester clubs, Chelsea or Arsenal, that are considered the title contenders. They're either considered in the top four or just outside. This year, if one of them was going to drop out of the top four race, I thought it was going to be Tottenham. The new location, they didn't really make any good buys over the summer. I thought it was going to be them dropping out of the top four race, but it turns out they're doing okay. They're sitting third right now. They've been putting together some good results, and Liverpool aren't looking that good right now. Yes, they had a great result against Maribor, but it doesn't matter if you're not doing it in the league. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how the beginning of the year, the expectations were Liverpool may be in and around, Tottenham may not be at all, and now it's flipped to where Tottenham are in and around and Liverpool aren't really there. So it's very interesting to see how the season's playing out so far. You got some teams putting together some good results early on, setting themselves up well to kind of, stay safe for the season. But last things last, I wanted to, do a quick review of the full table. Now that we're 9 games in, we're almost a fourth of the way there. Or, yeah, close to a fourth of the way there. So just to go over a quick recap of the table, you got Man City at the top with 25 points. Man U and Tottenham sitting second and third with 20. Chelsea and Arsenal fourth and fifth with 16 points. In sixth, biggest surprise is Watford with 15 points. Seventh, Newcastle with 14. Eighth and ninth, Burnley and Liverpool with 13. 10th and 11th, Southampton and Huddersfield with 12. 12th, Brighton with 11. 13th, West Brom with 10. 14th, Leicester with 9. 15th through 18th, Swansea, West Ham, Stoke, Everton with 8. 19th, Bournemouth with 7. And then last place, of course, Crystal Palace with 3. So, just looking at this table right now, like I said, you got those top four. You got your Manchester clubs. You got Tottenham, Chelsea, and Arsenal. And you look at Liverpool all the way down in ninth. Yes, they're not that far behind. They're only 3 points behind Chelsea and Arsenal. But they've not been looking good. They've not been looking good in the league at all. And then you go to the bottom half of the table. And in that relegation battle right now, you've got Crystal Palace, obviously, the farthest away with 3. But then you got Bournemouth with 7. You've got 4 teams on 8 points. And then you've got Leicester 9, West Brom 10, Brighton 11. So all of these teams right now are in and around there. And you got to wonder which of these teams are going to start just pulling away in the wrong side of it. So yeah, it's very interesting to see how the table's setting up right now. Let's see if I can sort of get this to where, if you want to look at it so I don't have to read it to you. That's top half of the table, then you go down, and then you find Palace there at the bottom. There's all the goal differences and stuff. If you want to pause the video and look at it, obviously you can look it up yourself if you want to. But it's a lot of fun to see where teams are right now because yes, we're only 9 games in. Yes, there's still a lot of games to play, but how you start the season can a lot of times determine where you are at the end of it. Beginning of last season, it didn't look like Chelsea were going to win the title. It looked like they were pretty well off in the title race, but then they put together a good string of results and then went on to win the title. So at this point, yes, some teams look like they're not in the title race. Yes, some teams look like they're definitely going to win the title. Some teams look like they're definitely going to get relegated. But ultimately, this is what the Premier League's all about. It doesn't matter where you are 9 games in. What matters is where you are 38 games in. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next, what teams are going to pick up points, what teams are going to drop points. It's always a lot of fun, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts in this past weekend? Which teams did the best and the worst? Let me know. We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Premier League weekend reviews. I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.